Thank you. Welcome to this meeting of the Joint Standards Committee on the 18th of March here at West Offices. For those of you that are watching online, we will go through the agenda, but there will be a point at which we will have to turn off the recording, given the nature of the business that we will have to look at. Just around the table, we've got the committee members from the City of York Council. We also have committee members from the Parish Council. To my left is Francis Harrison, who's the head of legal and the Deputy Monitoring Officer, and to my right we have Ben, who is from Democratic Services, and also we have our two independents persons, Joe Lee and Rosa Mazar. So thank you so much. Welcome to all of you. I do have one apology for absence, and that is Councillor Mark Wardby. Apart from that, I think we are at full complement. Okay. So coming to the agenda, item number 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. So does anybody have any declarations of interest that are not already covered in their declaration of interests? No? That's good. Thank you very much. Item number 3, exclusion of the press and public. Just for us to formally just vote that we would like the press and public to be excluded when we come to look at agenda item 10. If I can just have a show of hands for that, please. Thank you very much. And then item number 4 is the minutes of the last meeting that sadly I wasn't at. I honestly did not know it was going to take the form that it did. I can assure members that I didn't deliberately absent myself, given the length of time that the meeting was going to be. I was in Salford doing a funeral. So we have the minutes there. Members, thank you. You've beat me to it. Thank you. Second it. Yep. All happy to accept those? Lovely. I'll sign those later. That takes us on to item number 6, which is public participation, and we have no members of the public registered to speak at this point. And that takes us on to item number 7, which is the annual report for 2024-2025. And I'm going to ask Francis just to speak to this for a moment, and then we'll have a chat. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Chair. The draft annual report placed before members for discussion and amendment follows the same pattern as last year's annual report. Bryn's Executive Assistant Megan has prepared a set of pie charts, which I think are a really good visual way of comparing the number of complaints that have been coming in, what type of complaints they are, what is the origin of the complaint, and we've kept in those same charts that we've been provided with for the last couple of years by way of comparison. If members dislike that and think it's too cluttered, then we can get rid of those. But in terms of seeing a trend, which is one of the objectives of the report, I've put them in the draft. Other business than monitoring and looking at those trends in complaints, the only thing mentioned is that standards consultation, which members did give a great deal of consideration to. Again, it may be that members wish to say something more about their work in considering that, but other than that, no proposals from the officer side as to what should be in the annual report. So it is, of course, open to members to say, well, actually, we think we should reflect upon this. Ultimately, this annual report goes before full council.
Lovely. Thank you, Francis. Just before I open it up to discussion, I will provide a forward for this, and I'm happy for you to see that before it goes out if you wish, but it will just be a standard forward that you would expect me to produce. I'm going to open it up for members. Should Joe and then Councillor Runciman. Bob, are you on a mic? Are you on? Oh, good. You need to lean forward, Joe, so we can hear you. There we
I
go.
am, definitely. One of my standard things about data presentation, if you look at the tables, figure 2, figure 3, figure 4, the description with the pie chart is exactly the same as the description above the header, but the header contains absolute numbers and the pie chart contains percentages. And it would be better if the numbers and the percentages were in one place on the pie chart, because then you wouldn't have to look at two different places to bring it together. Now, it's hardly earth-shattering, but it would be possible to simplify it by having them not repeating, for example, in figure 4, 4 headers with numbers against them, and then in the origin of the complaint, 4 headers with percentages around the pie chart. Not exactly earth-shattering.
It's about having that, as well as having it as a percentage, is it necessary to have them?
Okay.
I think the absolute figures are important, but some extra numbers.
Yeah, I'm open to members' thoughts on what Joe said. I think, as Francis has just mentioned, I think having absolute figures is important, whether that means that we then lose the percentages. Whilst I respect your thoughts, Joe, I'm quite happy to have both, but I'm open. Can I go to Councillor Pavlovic, and then obviously, because it's on this, and then Councillor Kent, I think, just popped up.
And I completely understand where Joe's coming from, but I think I'm with you on this one, Chair. I think we do need to have the overall numbers. I've got no problem with having percentages in if you want to then bracket it and say 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever, you could, but I think that makes it look even more clumsy. Whichever way we do, I think we need to know that figure 5, for example, the total figure is 21, and how that 21 is broken down. I like the pie charts. I always think a pie chart is a handy visual representation. So I wouldn't want to lose the pie chart, but I do take the point that there are two different measures, if you like, one numbers, one percentages.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Pavlovic. Councillor Kent, do you want to? Yeah.
Thanks. And I'm not. Is it because you think it's inaccessible, Joe? Or
I think it's both in the same place. Keep the pie chart.
Oh,
Mike, please.
Yeah, keep the pie chart, but don't have the words repeated in two places. So there's the CYC councillors is repeated as blue and also as 5 out of 9 on figure 7. If it simply said subject to member complaints above the pie chart and said 9, i.e. 9 complaints, and on the individual sections it said 33% and the number of complaints, in that case 3, you're not looking in two different places to grab the information about what's going on.
I understand. So, and I respect that. I think I'm also of the view that I like both of them because I want to know the overall figures, and I think it's important that they're quite low in number, and so that's spelt out. Whereas I think the percentages captures in the pie chart form captures the sort of balance between them, and so I think I like it as it's presented. Yeah. And I don't think it's difficult to. It's in two places, but I think they say slightly different things, and I don't think it's difficult to read or understand. So I would approve of it as it stands.
Thank you. Anybody else on Joe's point? If not, I just will move it on. My final comment on Joe's very valid point, Joe. Always appreciate what you guys have to say to us. Is that this predominantly is going to be presented in black and white. So actually having the percentages makes it a little bit easier. I mean, you can access it in colour if you want to look at it online or whatever, but I think predominantly when it's in paper format, it's going to be in black and white. Sorry, Councillor Osborne, I know that Councillor Fisher, is this a...
If it's going to be presented in black and white, could it not use some kind of shading or hatching to make it very clear which section is which? I mean,
yeah, really good point.
Yeah, have a key
absolutely,
saying, whatever.
Yeah,
that's a standard way of doing pie charts, isn't that?
That's good. Thank you for that. I'm going to move it on. Councillor Runciman, and you had
Yeah, I'd just start by saying that I agree with your point. I'd rather have both, but I like Tony's idea of having actions. The point I wanted to make was pulling together the trends. And when I read it, I thought it would be very useful to have a summary at the end. It's from the above, we can see that. There is less of this, more of that, about the same as the other. And that would bring it together, the trends, which is really important, we're told, and obviously it is. The trends in this one are actually quite interesting because they've changed. So to have a summary at the end, just putting those trends into words rather than relating each pie chart as you go through would be very useful, I think.
Lovely. Thank you. Yep. We've made notes on that. Anybody else on the draft report? I don't want to... my thoughts would be on page 23, which is the consultation. I think if you were to add every single joint standards meeting that we've had for the last 3 years and add them together, they still wouldn't have made the same length of time as the last joint standards meeting. So you did a lot of work on that consultation and putting together our thoughts as a group, and you'll be pleased to know that I did sit and watch it. So I watched all the comments, and were all very valid. So thank you. Do you think we should put a little bit more in around the consultation, or do you think it's adequate in terms of what's in there? Councillor Runciman.
Yeah, I did think there should be slightly more, and I wondered if the main points could be pulled out. Not every answer, but just the main points. I could reiterate them now, but I'm sure that Frances can find them.
She will.
And if we had a summary,
yes,
as I suggested, they could go in the summary.
Yeah, a very valid point. I would endorse that. Anybody else? Any comments around the consultation piece? No. Looking back and watching it, I was encouraged by the different opinions that we had around the table, were voiced very, very eloquently, but also, the fact that as a committee, we were able to share our different thoughts and opinions around the table, but come up with a consensus for the document that was sent off. I had thought whether I ought to complete it myself, it kind of into separately, but I decided no, I'm part of this committee, and I was very comfortable with what I heard and saw. So thank you for that.
I reckon to have to give you a sign off on that.
Yeah. So are you happy to give me sign off on the final draft when it comes, bearing in mind that we're not meeting again until later on in the year, by which time the idea is that this gets presented at full council, and as with the annual reports that we see. So we're keen to get it finished and completed. Sorry,
can it be circulated with your intro and the summary, so we can just read those two bits?
Happy for that to happen. Yes. Yeah, good. Anything else on that particular item? If not, we can move on. I'm looking around. I don't see any hands. Thank you. Thank you to Frances and to her team and to Democratic Services for pulling that together for us. It's a really useful piece of work. So thank you very much for that. Item number 8 is the review of the work plan. I'm aware that we have been trying to have some meeting with the YLCA. Sheena Spence was supposed to be here today. Unfortunately, she's had a family incident that's caused her to have to give her apologies for today. But looking at the work plan moving forward. So 13th of May is the next meeting. I had indicated that this is my last meeting, and I'm not unaware that we have a 13th of May meeting, but I'm actually not around. I'm out of the country then, so this is actually my last meeting, but Councillor Wardby will chair that meeting as the Vice Chair, but you will need to look at appointing a new Chair and Vice Chair, as you do every year, but clearly it won't be me at our next meeting. I think it's in July. So in terms of the work plan, I'm assuming that we would like, if she's able to attend in May, we'd like YLCA I think we just need to keep on with this, because it's easy for something that, when it doesn't happen on an agenda, for it to kind of fall off, and so I'm keen that we keep that on the agenda there. Again, I'm not wanting to saddle you with any kind of extra work, but is there anything that members feel should be on the agenda for the May meeting other than what is already on there? No. Councillor Kent.
No, I'm just the pending items. It's when are they? Is it appropriate to allocate them to a date now or not? No, because.
I think these are the kind of things that, when the committee reconvenes in the next municipal year, they can begin to slot those in terms of. I think the idea is that which is why I was keen to have YLCA at the main meeting. Anything that we kind of need to kind of clean. I say clean up. That sounds very kind of domestic, but just so we can finish off this this municipal year. So. I'm not seeing any hands shooting up for that. So we'll leave it at that for now. And that takes us on to our next item, which is item number 9, urgent business. I haven't received any items of urgent business. Therefore, we'll move on to item number 10, which is the report of the complaints received. Can I just, again, remind members that the pink papers, please do not look at those whilst we are in open session, because they can be picked up by the cameras, particularly those of you that are further towards the bottom end of the table. But I am just going to ask Frances if she can just speak to the public list as you have there, and then we'll go into a private session to look at the unredacted list. Frances.
Thank you, Chair. There are just 2 items, one in the open list and one in the recently closed list. There isn't anything more, Chair, that I can actually say in the public session. I can give you a brief update on one of the items in a private session, but it is what it says in the report. Okay.
So do members have any questions that they feel they would like to ask in this session? Clearly we can ask fuller questions in the next. Okay, thank you for that. So in a moment I'm going to ask that the recording be turned off, and please be mindful, those that are watching, that we will not be returning back to a public session. So for you, this is it. Thank you for watching.